This is part 2 of the previous video called Creating a Mini 20-foot by 20-foot earthen pond. In the last video, I built the pond but made some mistakes and the dam had some leakage. Check out part 1 for more info on that. In this video, I'll show the work done with the excavator. The goal was twofold: rebuild the dam with clay to eliminate leakage and increase the pond depth from 1.5 feet to 3 or 4 feet. At first, we planned on renting the excavator in the spring of 2023 to rebuild the dam. One thing led to another, and then we postponed it till the fall. We were hoping to get it in the October-November time frame. Long story short, we finally had some warmer weather in January 2024, so we pulled the trigger and reserved it for January 11th. Several days before then, we got a lot of rain, but I thought I could still pull it off and not have to cancel the rental. As they say, hindsight is 20/20. I never should have attempted this with the wet ground. You will see that in the next upcoming videos. I am working on a trench to remove the last bit of water. You can see how wet everything is and why I should not have proceeded with the excavator until it dried out more. The excavator is here and I am recording the hour meter so I can stay within my 8-hour rental limit. Here I'm using the excavator to remove old dam material from the east side. Removing the west side of the dam. Digging the core trench for the east side of the dam. Here's a different view of the same work. Sorry for the glare. Using the excavator to remove the old dam material from the east side. Because it is so wet, I have to constantly adjust the temporary channel to keep the excess water draining. I had to move the cord and the camera. Removing the west side of the dam. Began creating the keyway on the east side. You can see how muddy and wet it was. Here's a view from the shed camera. You can see the keyway with standing water in it. Also how bad the ground is torn up because of all the rain from the previous week. Again, a bad decision. This also will give you a different view of moving excess mud from the bottom of the pool or pond on the east side. I am depositing the excess mud as far back as I can reach it to keep from putting it on the existing trail. Trying to remove all mud down to the clay. Another view to remove mud from the southeast corner. It was so muddy I had to use a shovel several times to unclog the bucket in the excavator. Removing mud on the west side. Removing excess water from the work area. Getting clay from inside the pond and began packing into the keyway. Removing clay from the bottom of the pool was starting to make the pond too deep, so I had to dig a borrow pit behind the excavator to get the clay for the east side of the keyway. Here I'm starting to build the dam up using the clay from the borrow pit. I didn't want to cross the temporary drainage channel, so I went through the woods to get back to the west side. Getting clay from the west side bottom of the pond and building the keyway on the west side, trying to pack it in with the excavator. Here is a different view of the same. Removing mud on the west side. Cleaning temporary channel. Working on the east side dam, rebuilding using the clay from the east side inside of the pond, constantly trying to drain excess water away. Now getting the clay from the borrow pit behind me. I am now beginning to worry about running out of time on my 8-hour excavator window. So I decided to just use clay from the borrow pit to build up the dam above the ground level. Digging West Side Keyway, removing mud from pond and old dam. Getting clay from West Side Pond, bottom borrow pit. Checking the time and discussing with my wife that the borrow pit in the pond may be a little too deep and we have to fill it in a little. Last minute cleanup, trying to remove the ruts where the excavator was sitting. Crossing the temporary drainage channel, you can see how I almost got stuck. Trying to fill in some of the borrow pit on the east side. A little more cleanup of the pond bottom on the east side. Having to hurry around here because of running out of time. It would have been nice to have more time, but it was not in the budget. A different view of what you just saw, beginning with the discussion with my wife about the pond depth. This provides a really close-up view of how muddy everything was. A different view of some of the cleanup. I made a quick stop at my compost pile to turn it over with the excavator. This is the next morning. They're picking up the excavator at 10 o'clock, so I need to get it back up to the street and clean it off. Again, you can see how wet the conditions are. You can see the finished dam. Wish I had more time and drier conditions to clean things up. There will be a lot of hand work needed. This is a different view which shows how much groundwater has filled the pond in just a few hours. This is later that evening after the excavator was picked up. Later that day I went to my daughter's lake house. This is a view of the dam from my security camera at 8:34 p.m. that evening. There was no rain on the forecast, but check out the next upcoming video to see what happened next.